coming in, why don't we all take a few deep breaths? Just deep breath in. And a little longer exhale. You inhale, take the breath all the way down. And on the exhale, open up your mouth. That lets tension and stress from inside the body out. Ah. 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 And then as we do these heavier topics, it's always good. Take a deep breath, exhale, and relax. So here we are at Process Work Online. And here we are, the four of us. And so we'll see if anyone else joins. But we're going to follow what Rumi says. We welcome whatever comes, even if it's a band of thieves sweeping out all of your furniture, because everything happens to open up space for something new. So we're creating something new, allowing energy. Just be happy, be happy. So my name is Diane Wong, and I'm happy to be here. Happy to welcome you. We can have an intimate group today and really get a chance to talk about race. So what I have in mind, we're going to go into dreamland. We're going to spend a lot of time in dreamland because we all know we can't solve the problems that we have with the same energy that created it. So our energy, the energy of our racial divide is really, it's too heavy in consensus reality. It's heavy. It just weighs us down and we can't even wade into it. So we're going to process in dreamland. And because in dreamland, we all share the same field. So we can all engage the energies of the field. We're going to do that. And we all share the energy of our unprocessed past. It's in the earth from which we came. It's in the water we drink, the air we breathe. And we all have a responsibility for what? For processing the energy of our history. So today we're going to practice deciding to process something, and then we're going to feel it and bring it into our hearts, name it, and then keep it on the forefront. So, and if you'll notice, that's the same process for burning your wood, right? So we're going to burn through some of the energy of the past so that we can transform it, transform the essence of fear, shame, and guilt. And in these times of transformation, this is our work. To feel it, name it, process it, and then release it. So we're all here. We're setting the foundation. We're the cornerstones of a process of healing our racial divide. So I want to show you something that we're going to look at a video. You should all be familiar with this video. So I'll bring it back.
Hi, I'm back. After hearing about world work theory in a nutshell, I thought it would be a good idea to give you a quick description of world work practice. In brief,
let's make this quick because I have another appointment to get to.
Yes, me too.
I'll help too. Me too.
Thanks for helping demonstrate. Okay, you'll remember that world work has to do with a deeper democracy. In practice, this means focusing on the facts and issues of a given situation. but also the deeper background experiences we don't normally notice.
Why was that important?
Well, focusing on all of this makes it possible to discover not only more sustainable solutions, but also deeper relationships and a greater sense of community.
Okay, sounds important to me.
I'm not sure, but I'll check it out.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the practice in brief. We'll just show a few elements of the work. You'll learn more about all of these and other aspects later on in the film. This is just one example. And the way you apply the methods depends entirely upon the specific situation, culture, etc. that you are working with.
I got it.
Thanks everyone for helping demonstrate this situation. Okay, think of a business in which the vice president stole a lot of money from the organization.
It was really terrible.
Yes, it really was. The vice president was fired, but after he left, the other employees talked about him so much that it was ruining the atmosphere.
He was a terrible guy.
I'm so angry at him.
And on top of that, they had trouble getting their finances together again.
Yes, because of that terrible vice president, we have so many financial problems now.
Yes, our accounting is a mess.
We don't have enough money to create our products.
That vice president was terrible.
On one level, what we call consensus reality, they were focusing on the resulting problems and issues, and how to get the organization functioning again.
That's right and very important. We absolutely need to focus on these things.
Yes, absolutely. That's crucial, and at the same time, there are other things that are happening that we need to pay attention to as well.
I don't understand. These are the most important things to focus on.
Right. But to really have sustainable resolutions, we need also to notice things we don't normally see, like background feelings, visions, dreams, body signals, and shared roles.
Yes, that's called the drilling level, right?
Right.
Let's try it. Maybe it will at least help the atmosphere improve.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
I'm so tired.
Me, too. I'm depressed and don't have the energy for this.
Our original organizational vision was to provide meaningful products for our customers to make their lives better. Now what?
They are representing some of the background feelings. And also in Dreamland, it's really important to notice ghost roles. Listen to this for a moment.
I am so upset with it, Vice President.
Me, too.
Me, too.
He was a terrible person. A thief.
No one noticed that he took the money until it was too late.
Thanks for demonstrating. Ghost roles are people or things that are talked about, but they are not right there in the moment.
You mean the vice president who stole the money?
That's right. The thief who is spoken about is a ghost role. Now, into the Dreamland level, they can experience that each side of an issue is also a role that is shared by everyone to some degree. In this process, there is a role of the thief and the role of those who are upset with that thief. So we can step into each one and speak for it. That is, play them out.
I'm only on my side, not on the thief's side.
Right. In consensus reality, we're only on our side. That's important. But in Dreamland, we can experience a group as a kind of field in which all of the sides are known to everyone to some degree.
Interesting. So maybe we can play out the two roles in the field.
Yes, let's play that out.
Okay.
I'm angry that you stole the money.
I just wanted it. I want it all for myself.
That's terrible.
I don't care. It's mine.
And since the roles belong to everyone in some way, we can also switch roles.
I want all the money.
You can't have it.
It's not right.
I don't care.
Tell us more why you want to steal. If it were you, why would you want to?
If it were actually me, well, I do feel that way a little. I feel I don't get enough from this organization. No one appreciates me enough. I want to steal love.
I feel that way, too. No one brings me flowers in the morning.
No one is nice enough to me or anyone. That's why we have had a bad atmosphere all the time.
Right. No one appreciates each other enough.
You'll notice that everyone wants to steal in the sense of wanting more appreciation from one another. And if you listen closely, you'll notice there is another ghost role that is implied. That is, the role of the person who appreciates others.
I could step into that role. I want to appreciate you. I haven't done it enough and really appreciate what you bring to us.
Me, too. But I never say it. I'm sorry about that.
Me, too.
This is all so important to me, and for us, I think.
And in this moment, there is a lot of appreciation and the atmosphere changed. They came to what we call the essence level. That is a sense of common ground or shared field, at least for that moment. And from that point on, the atmosphere improved and they could work even better with one another and begin to their finances together.
And I felt that we then reconnected to our original organizational vision. We always wanted to improve the lives of our customers. And in this moment, we improved the life of the organization as well.
Thanks for saying that. And thanks to everyone for demonstrating.
So now there's a little bit more. We're going, okay. So now okay, changing my microphone. Now I want to move into what we're going to do today, which I wanted to look at that, just a quick reminder of the field and how we all share an awareness, and we can step into roles. And they're not really ours, they're the shared energy of the field. So we're going to use that to look at and to go into our history. So here we go.
Welcome. I have to go now.
Hi, George.
Hi, Desiree.
I think it would be important to remind everyone of something Sally Rue pointed out earlier. She said that one of the most important ghost roles that often comes up during discussions about world work topics and social issues is the ghost of history.
Yes, that's right. People often speak about historical events or people as if they were only in the past. And this, of course, is true. But when they are spoken about, they are also ghost roles right here in the moment.
Yes. And one way to understand this is that these ghost roles are seeking deeper resolutions than may have occurred before.
I think I understand. Many of us want and hope to get beyond the past, especially if it was very painful. That's very important. But I think you are saying that if the past is not processed at some point, when people are ready, it can disrupt events and resolutions of today. Is that right?
That's right. Because any group interactions, treaties, or negotiations between people or nations that are made today won't hold well if the earlier problems and experiences are not processed.
That's right. All of that history is still in the background and can disturb whatever happens. So, when the timing is right and their group is ready, they can use their awareness to represent roles and events of the past and go deeper.
Can you give me an example?
Yes. For example, Ani often says, you can get rid of the dictator, but not the dictator role or energy.
Right. So for example, you can have a revolution in a country, but if the dictator role is not processed and worked with, it will turn up in some other form.
So, you mean if, today, that earlier leader or dictator is spoken about in a group, someone might step into that role and represent it?
Yes. I might do it like this. I know what's right, and everyone has to follow me.
then there's the chance for others to use their awareness, and to step into other roles and interact.
They can also switch roles and bring in any other roles in the field.
And as the process unfolds, potentially discover better ways to deal with, and use, that so-called dictator energy, in a more useful way.
I guess we don't have time to show the whole process, but I get the idea, and I think others who are watching will too.
That's great.
Yes, I hope so.
I love that. I love that animated series because it brings really complex ideas and it puts them right out there. So for those two clips, I like the first one because it demonstrated, it showed how to engage the energy of the field. Even if it's like those characters, nobody really felt like the thief, but they were able to step into the energy of the thief. And even after they stepped into it, they were able to see that everybody wanted something else. They want something. They want to take something else. So all of that's the kind of energy that goes it's unprocessed, unaware, and kind of unseen, except that we play it out in ways, unseen ways. We play out those roles all the time. I'm gonna drink some water. And so I wanted today to look at some race history. And this is a practice, right? Because to heal our racial divide, even if I say that, then I wonder, okay, that sounds like a really good idea. How do we do that? And so if we look at the field of energy around race, it goes back hundreds of years, and it's a dense and heavy field. And as it was described in the clips, most of it unprocessed. So that energy is still there and it's being picked up in different ways. But that if we were able to consciously come in and process it, so consciously, somewhat consciously, because I believe that Dreamland is the place to do that. Dreamland, because I don't have to say, okay, this is me, this is how I feel. I can just allow myself to speak. I can let the energy of whatever it is just speak, and then let it really speak, and then speak enough so that you burn it through, burn it up. What is processing? I think of processing and burning as kind of the same thing. So what did you think about, before we go into the history, did that remind you of anything, the two clips? Anything useful?
Are you talking about like the two clips, like about the process work, or
yeah, use it. Yeah. Oh, okay. Did it remind you of anything in process work that we could use right now to process anything? It just reminds you of what a good tool it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what you were saying, that we kind of have, that there's fluidity between the roles, that, we can be all the roles. I think it was good that there's like an essence to every role. There's something to integrate there once you process it.
And for me, what it said was, reason I brought it, and what I'm thinking is that we don't have to say, this is me, this is I agree or I disagree. We can just process the energy of it and see. We don't even have to know where it's going. We don't have to have a full picture. We can just start processing the energy of it. So Donna, what are you thinking over there?
I'm thinking about how in my study group back home, there's only 4 of us in it. We've been doing it for about 4 years. And we've been stuck for the last since we started doing a little bit on racism, there's been a stuckness. And it's funny because I keep bringing it up and then it gets talked about a little bit and the group edges out around it. And then what happens is, what happened last time was when I brought it up again, is I got told that I take up too much room in the group and I talk too much. So it was said in a nice way, of course, but what happens is when something doesn't get dealt with, it gets, I seem to have a sensitivity to be dreamt up into a role to continue to bring that in. And I was just thinking how that is the same at work. I try and bring racism up as an issue, as our own racism. Let's look at our own racism. Oh God. So I'm sitting here going, oh God, this is just, I don't see the end of it. I don't believe there'll be an end to racism. Maybe there'll be marginal improvements intermittently, but I feel a bit hopeless around it all, to be, including my frustration is that I don't get to talk in an environment that I love, which is with process workers, to talk about my own racism, and that's the safest place for me to be able to talk about it, and I don't get to do that, and I find that really frustrating.
Well, thank you. That's exactly, I think that's everybody's experience. Race and racism are difficult topics, and nobody wants to talk about them. And the reason I think nobody wants to talk about them is because we've already done everything that we can do, well, reasonably do about behavior. But in 1964 Civil Rights Act in the United States, they specifically said, we can change behavior, but we can't change hearts and minds. And so as I look at the topic of race and where has it gone, we've done a lot of, like you said, tweaking around the edges, and some important changes in laws, and that has changed some behavior, but it's driven it inside. And so now where does racism reside? Inside our own hearts and minds. And I don't think there's anybody that doesn't have any. Because why? Because we live and we breathe the same air, we see the same information, the same news, the same everything. And so it flows into us. And then we don't have a place, we don't have a mechanism to take it out because we won't talk about it. We don't process it. And so where does it stay? It stays inside. And so the danger that I see, and the reason that I'm doubling down on trying to work on it, although it's no better when I talk about it. It's no better when I try to, push this discussion. People don't like that either. So that means that it's a really important topic. And why is it important? It's important because it's gotten there's so much in our bodies and in our hearts and in our minds that we're full of it. And so there's only one thing left for it to do, and that is explode. Yes, explode. Because that's what happens when you push something inside and you don't find a way, you don't process it. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to do that. So let's stop talking there. Thank you very much. That is exactly why we're doing this. And I have some information now. That was a process, how we're going to process it. But now I've got some race information in images and a little bit of talk that will bring some things in. And then I'll ask us to jump into any of those images, feel into those, and start to speak from them. Speak from them. And I'll demonstrate what I mean. Maybe each one of us can do some of that. So hopefully I've got this down better now. I can share the screen. Share the screen. Let me see. Where is it? Here it is. Share. Okay. Okay. Okay, so just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, because I switch depending on which microphone I'm using, it switches. So I'm on this microphone. Okay.
That mic is, sorry to interrupt you. That mic is excellent. Could you turn your volume up just a tiny bit? Yeah, the sound quality is really good. It's just a tiny bit low.
Okay. Let's see. Is that better? Is it getting any better?
Yes, that's great. That's excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
It's just when you speak, you're a little lower than other people, but the sound quality is really
okay.
good.
Yeah, the other microphone, the channel for that gets taken up when I share the screen, so I can't, so that's why it switches back and forth. So, okay, I'm aware of that now, and I'll speak right into the mic. So here it is. Look at that. Look at that image. It's this scary image that kind of, it's who is it? It's us. It's coming outside of us. So we must heal our racial divide. We must, in these days of needing us to be able to work together on topics, and we can't do that because we're held back or we're held down. We're smothered by the shame, the guilt, the anger, the hatred, the distress, everything. It's pushing us down. It's smothering us. So we must begin to process the past. And then once we process it, we can say, okay, I felt it, now let's let it go. So let's get started. So this all starts, as I look at it, it doesn't just start here, but one big deciding factor was the 15th century, around 1493 to 14, and for about 10 years, there were a series of papal decrees that came out from the Vatican that that said that it established a spiritual, political, and legal method for colonization and for seizure of lands that were inhabited by anybody else other than Christians. So this papal decree, these papal sets of decrees applied in Africa, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and the Americas. And basically they said, if you come to a land mass and there are no Christians there, without Christian forms of government, then you can act and you can take those lands as though they were uninhabited. And you can know by our whole history of colonization, that's exactly what we did. And here it is. Columbus started it. Well, he imposed the doctrine of discovery that granted the European settlers sovereignty over the Americas. And here they are. And right along with that, kind of at the same time, Europeans were seeing other people that the whole idea of whiteness started to, how can you tell a person? And so the idea of whiteness started to take shape and form. And it said that there was inherently a God-given superiority, betterness, and how can you tell it? By the skin of people. The white people are inherently better in every way than everybody else. So these two things, the doctrine of discovery and the invention of whiteness. And then if we, in the United States, there was a whole slavery. And slavery, they took the doctrine of discovery. They were already doing slavery all around. And then the doctrine of discovery just allowed them to go in kind of, feeling better about themselves and take from, they took from Africa, started taking from Europe in indentured servants, but pretty soon with the invention of whiteness, that turned into looking at Black people for doing the work in this new land that they had discovered. So along with the work required control, some control over the slaves. Enslaved people sometimes would run away. And so there started to be these slave patrols looking for runaway enslaved. So that system of slave patrols that started in slavery, it evolved. And so even after the Civil War and after slavery was over, it just moved right into the modern day police department. Because the interesting thing in the United States, some other countries have done things differently. Germany, for example, after World War II, they actually processed their history, and they made some changes. They drew a line in the sand and said, this was bad, and now we're never going to do that again. Well, we didn't do that in the United States. And so that's part of the reason why our history is so thick and it's so unprocessed. And so one of the things we didn't change, the slave patrol just evolved into police departments with the same requirement. They wanted the police officers to control Black people and also immigrants or the poor. They wanted control over people. And at the same time, so you've got the doctrine of discovery and you've got the invention of whiteness and the whole control mechanism. At the same time, there's forming this scientific racism. And the scientific racism, they were finding specific things and ways to show this suit. Now it's been tossed out, but at that time, these scientific proofs of the superiority, you measure the cranium. There were other ways. There were diseases. They said that there was a disease that afflicted Black people that caused them to be real antsy and to run away. So that was a disease, they said, that was afflicting Black people. So that was scientific racism, justification for enslavement. And along with the scientific racism, the invention of whiteness, the doctrine of discovery, the control mechanisms, also in the law in the Supreme Court in 1857, and this is important because it's like scientific racism was important. It was the science. It was taught in medical school. And here we've got the Supreme Court and the justice of the Supreme Court who said that these Black people are an inferior order and unfit to associate with the white race. And that this is his most famous quote, the Black man has no rights which the white man is bound to respect. He said that the Black is sold and treated as an article of merchandise and traffic wherever a profit can be made. And he said this opinion was fixed and universal in the civilized portion of the white race. So you've got a lot of factors. You've got, the pronouncement of whiteness, white is right and superior. You've got scientific racism. And then you've got the laws of the land that say that the Black man has no rights. And then at the same time, so all of these things are kind of squashed into the same time. At the same time, in the United States, there's this Western movement west, expansion westward, because as you can see in this image, in this famous portrait, in the front, you've got native people. They're being moved out, and the wagon trains are coming in. The native people and the animals, the buffalo, they're being forced out. And as they're being pushed out to the west, then there was a Homestead Act in 1862, and it said that settlers, and here you see, here come the settlers, and the settlers could be provided with 160 acres of land in exchange for a nominal. It was very nominal. It was like $1.25 an acre, but you had to build a house, and you had to live in it for 5 years, and that was all you had to do. So this is when the land opened up because the native people were forced off the land. So a lot of things happening in that 19th century. After slavery, the plantations still needed somebody to do the work. They still needed somebody to pick the cotton. You've got all this land, and you've got this crop. And that crop is building wealth in the United States. So there was a need after emancipation of slaves to have a workforce. And so they came up with, well, the 13th Amendment had a provision that said that you couldn't hold anybody in involuntary servitude except for the commission of a crime. So right after the Civil War, there were new black codes, which had new laws that took kind of minor things, and a lot of things were like vagrancy. And if you recall, the people, the formerly enslaved, were free. They were, one day they're, as someone has said, one day you're, cutting potatoes. Next day, you're still cutting potatoes, but now you're free. The difference is you have to pay rent now. You have to pay rent. And so they were freed with nothing. And so oftentimes, and there were few kinds of jobs that were available. They started to make clear the kinds of jobs that they wanted the formerly enslaved to do. And the easiest thing for them to do was put them in jail. And once they were put in jail, then they were able to be rented out to these plantations to do the work. And so that's what happened, and that's what worked. So since basically the 13th Amendment flaw, it created modern day convict labor. So in the 19th century, you put them in, you rounded up people, you put them in jail, you sent them out to the plantation to do the work. And then in modern day, it's very similar. I mean, and again, just like the police, nothing changed. We never drew a line in the sand. We never had a big commission. We never looked at things. We never found anything wrong. And so even now, the monuments, the whole, in Germany, for example, the swastika, the Nazi salute, those things are illegal. You can go to jail if you do any of those things. But here in the United States, the Confederate flag, the war memorials to the Confederacy, those are things that they're still in the atmosphere. This is all unprocessed energy, and our police and then our prisons are exactly the same. We do the same thing. They work for little or nothing, $1 an hour, $2 a day, and they can do all kinds of things, license plates, furniture, whatever is needed. And in Angola, I think these prisoners on the right are from Angola, and they are still these big, large plantations where they do all the work that is needed. At the same time, we're having the partitioning of Africa by 8 European powers. So from 1885 to 1914, there was the partitioning of Africa. And there was a Berlin conference where these 8 colonial powers came together. And because they came together and they said, we're getting ready to fight each other over the resources of Africa. And so let's not fight about it. Let's get together and just divide it up. And that's what they did. And so why did they want Africa? They wanted new markets. They wanted a place to sell their goods. They needed raw materials. So they needed to have a place to send their surplus people. So they would send the colonial people, the colonists or the colonialists. They would send them into Africa to govern or to make sure that the workers did the work. And they also thought, and this is what they told, this is, why the missionaries came in. They said that the Africans needed to be civilized, and they were going to do that. They were going to educate them and help them become Christians. But also the big part was that having colonies symbolized the greatness of a nation. And so as we're looking now at Great Britain and burying their queen of 70 years, Canada's queen too. So that's we're looking at now it's a Commonwealth, but at one time it was the British Empire. And they said that the sun never set on the British Empire because they were strong, because they colonized everybody. They colonized almost the whole world. And then in the United States after slavery, you could only do so much putting people in jail and keeping them working on the plantation. So another way of control was terror, and one big racial terrorism, the Ku Klux Klan developed out of that. And then one big way of having racial terror was lynching. And why? So this is why we said we're lynching. We have to lynch people to protect white women's virtue from black men, because black men can't control their desire for white women. And so these were the reasons for anti-black violence. And so what did that violence consist of? It was, when I look at these images, you can see that not only is that person hung and lynched from a tree, but also burned, and that burned body would be cut up into pieces. The bones would be taken all as souvenirs. And then great photographs, just like this photograph here. And they would be these photographs are turned into postcards and sent all over. And the postcard might say something like, guess where we were today? We were at a barbecue. And what always strikes me at this picture and the one following, not just this picture, but these in general, it's just the look of happiness and glee of really being delighted with the white faces of most of them, not all of them, but you can imagine what that would be like to be in that crowd or to look at that site. And then here, I always, and I'm reminded in Marion, Indiana, in 1930, because my mother was born in Marion, and she said that her father moved them, all of them, they moved. And when did they move? They moved in August of 1930. They moved from Marion, Indiana to Cleveland, Ohio, where I was born. And so that's what it was like at those times. Now, what really strikes me about this photograph of these two people that were brought out of the courthouse and hung, lynched. There's a lot of women in this crowd. So these would be events, and they would be events that people would come to, and they would bring their children, and the grandparents would come, and it was a picnic. It was an event to go to on a Sunday afternoon. So the reason I'm belaboring this is I want us to be aware of how toxic the energy is around race and racism, and how important it is for us. We don't have to be there. We can feel into that energy of that, and we can allow processing through us to start to process the energy of race and racism. And another way, so we've got the lots of different things that are happening about this time, 19th century. You've got the beginning of it with the doctrine of discovery, the invention of whiteness, the scientific racism, the convict labor, and the lynching. But another big piece of, because the question for me is that we want to ask ourselves is, how does this get into us so strongly? Why is it in our hearts and minds? And ultimately, what brought me to start to ask this question, why is it so strong, and how strong is it? It's looking at the unarmed Black people shot by the police. And so what I began to, I noticed, I could see this strongly, was that they all said, I was in fear for my life. I was afraid for my life. And so what that meant was that to be in fear for your life, all they had to do was see. If they got the sense, if they could see with their eyes that it was a Black person, it didn't necessarily just have to be a man. It could be a woman, but mostly it was men. But to see a Black man puts fear of their lives into the heart of a white police officer, maybe all police officers. So how does all this get in? Well, it's not just the science and the lynching and it's also the jokes and the mockery and the laughing, and so that comes in through this whole Jim Crow era. Birth of a Nation was born at this time in the 19th century. Birth of a Nation, I think 1914 or 15. And Birth of a Nation was the first talking, I think it was talking, but it was the first full, I think it was 3 hours of a movie. And it showed, it was a propaganda film about what happened after Black people were freed. And it was their idea of that. And I can just imagine, this is the first big movie, and it goes out over the big screen, and people see this, and just imagine this is the first time you've ever seen something like this, and what you see are images of Black people doing things that would make you afraid. So, and this also brings up, because we're talking about in England, and so another reason for creating this, the stereotypes, these caricatures, is that it created a cultural low. It created an other, and you could project your fears or your worst ideas out onto people, or an idea of people, and this allows you to laugh and cry and not have to just stay in your kind of stiff upper lip, if you're British, kind of way. You could let it all go by laughing at somebody else. Okay. Oops, I know what happened. Don't want to go from the beginning, from the current. Oh, sorry, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go.
While you're finding it, could I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to share how I felt, how much I felt. It's just very difficult. It's very difficult to see the pictures. Like, I'm curious. I wanted to see the faces. It's really hard to watch, though.
Yeah, and I can't make these other ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you see what I mean? That's why the energy around race is so heavy. And it's heavy in that what we looked at is something that we could all agree on. That's like consensus reality. You know, people, you don't have to know about the whole history. There were just a few more slides. I can't find them. They disappeared, but that was enough. And that's why it's so heavy. And that's why we need to be able to go to dreamland, which is what we're going to do with that. So let's just take a few breaths here. And just relax and release, but don't really let it go. Let's see if you can recall. Let me start, and it would be nice if we can all do this, because now I'm going to start to process some of that energy, and I'll do it in the process way of taking it as a ghost roll. None of those images are here. But the one that I remember always, and I spoke about it, it's the images of not just the image of the lynched person, but the images of the faces of the people. So I'm going to breathe into that. And I'm going to pick up the role of the grandmother who was in one of those images. She didn't look happy. She was there. So I'll work myself into that and process some of that energy. So I'm here. I'm in this. I'm in this. I walked to this event with I'm here. I just arrived here. I'm here. I came here from Italy. I lived in a small town in Italy. I don't know what's going on in this country that I'm in. And my family wanted me to come because they said it was something for me to see, to understand America. I'm trying to understand America, and I'm here. And it seemed like they pulled this person out of this jail, and they hung him up and just tortured him. And I'm trying to understand America. I want to be an American. I know it's important to be an American, to do this, because my family told me that. And I want to be an American. I'm trying to be an American. But I don't know if I'll ever get over this. Is this what America is? How is this America? How is this what I'm supposed to be? How can I be American and be this? So I'm going to switch roles. And I'm going to be the daughter of the grandmother that brought the mother there. So mother, it's not what you think. Don't worry about it. It's not what you think. It's not so bad, mother. We're good people. We're good. We're good Catholic people. We believe in God. God put us here. God sent us to America to rule. because that's the role of the white man. Mother, didn't you notice that was a black man? And so they're not human like you and me. So you just got to get that notion that they're human beings. I'll show you lots of things and show you ways that just prove that how they're not human. So you don't have to, don't feel bad, Mother. We didn't do that to a human being. That was a beast, and he raped a white woman. Yes, he did. He raped a white woman, and that's why he did. That's why we have to do it. We have to control them. You know that my husband is a police officer. He wouldn't do anything wrong. He's here to save us from this beast, this black beast. So now I'm going to switch roles. I'll be a child. I was there too. I was a child. And now I'm grown up. I was a child. My father carried me on his shoulders to see. And I was a child. Now I'm an adult. And now I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And why? Because black people are I've been taught, and I learned, and I saw what you have to do to them. And now I'm here, and it's 1995, and I'm showing my children, I'm going to raise them to understand what you have to do to these black people. They're not humans. Remember what your grandmother said. I remember my grandmother, she said, I understand now. They're not human. That's what I understand. And so I'm going to pass that down. And now my children are on the police force, and they know, and they're going to keep us safe. And that's what I know. And they're a joke. We make jokes about them. They're scientifically just so. Does anybody want to take another side of that or anything?
I want to just go away. I don't want to be here. I'm only here because I'm terrified. I just want to go. This is horrifying. I don't even want to know this is happening.
And see, Donna, that's the reason why, because even a discussion about it, if we look at guilt and pain and shame, fear, and where does this fear come from? We pass it down generation after generation. It comes from our own history.
I notice, though, I also have a feeling, this is me, so I'm speaking very personally. It's a feeling in my head, like I've had, that I know very well from trauma. It's like this lightness in my body, and my head is spinning, and it is too much. Like I am literally trying to associate, it's too much. Nuts, yeah. I think that's, anyway.
So tell us more. Too much. What does that mean?
This is like, it's too much. How could this actually happen? How could we treat people like this? I don't even want to be here. I am so grateful I'm safe, but it's too much. Like it's so painful. It's overwhelming. And I don't think it's just the pain of the moment. I think it's like my own pain too. It just brings us up.
So processing is hard, even if it's
Yeah. I can't, okay, like, this is me also speaking, like, just imagining being there, I feel totally overwhelmed. But then me also speaking just as myself, I can't imagine, like, a lot of people just would not be kind of like zombies there. How can you, anyway, I don't know, but how could you not be there and be a zombie? Because that's how I feel. I feel kind of like a zombie, imagining being there. But maybe, I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of other experiences. But
well,
that's
imagine
for me.
imagine those folks are your family. I mean, thousands of people came. They would announce it in the newspaper, and thousands of people came. There are a lot of families, and so the question for us is, how do we process that? How much wood does it take to process? How do we process that? How do we heal that?
I'm just wondering though, it's like, and these are just thoughts and they'll probably be questionable. But so long as this keeps perpetuating, so long as there continues to be people who still share the same mindset of those that have performed those atrocities against humanity, and we still live amongst people like that, so that energy will always be in the world. It's never going to go away. There's always going to be people like that. And I resonate with Catherine around, wanting to just check out. And then part of me was feeling like there's not enough people in this group to hold the space for that.
Okay.
I feel like I've got to hold too much, and I'm already burned out from work and feel like I'm holding too much. And but it is around this same issue, because I live and work with a lot of Aboriginal people. And I don't know, I feel like the responsibility has fallen on some to process the unconscious or conscious, racism and cruelty and inhumanity, inhumane behaviour. And so long as that will be generated, and then there's this other group that are trying to process what isn't being processed, as it just feels like it's just trauma, just more and more trauma.
I hear what you said. I like what you said, and that's as we think about what we need to do to begin to heal, to process the energy of that. First, we have to see it. I mean, we have to be aware of the, and that was a quick look. And so, but what you said is really important. There's not enough of us here to hold the space. So, and that's important with burning your wood. As we think about, because as you said, Donna, things are not getting better around this because we've got all of those people and a lot of other stuff that we haven't talked about, but they've generated. What do you think? They would go home and tell their children that was a horrible thing I just did? No, they would say, this is who we are. This is what we do. We make the world safe for democracy or whatever. And that's what we're hearing now, we're hearing it louder and louder and louder. And so in order to commit, if we decided we wanted to process it, now I have a better sense of what it's going to take. And now I also know that when I've looked at burning your wood, and I've done a lot of burning my wood, but it was in big groups, because the big groups of people that are there, they hold the space. They hold this energy, and that's what is needed. So when we write when things get so bad that people are really ready to work on stuff like this, and they say, well, what do you need? We need big spaces for a lot of people to come, because that we've got to have people to hold the space.
I think that it, for me, and this is just a thought, that the amount of people I need to hold a space for healing, so, for whatever kinds of trauma, I can have a smaller group for that. But to be able to process evil, which for me, that's what that is.
Absolutely.
Like I can't hold that level of evil, and then I'm in a double bind, because I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Here's a child, or here's an adult, or here's a man, a woman, or whatever, that held onto that all by themselves. And then I feel like, well, I should be able to hold it. I also have it's already been mentioned here, I also have a traumatic childhood and my own trauma to hold, and so I just, the trauma and the evil that continues today. It's on the news. Have a look. Pockets everywhere, but I just I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. We need a very big group to process evil.
Well, we also have to be motivated. We have to decide that we want to do it. And so what you talked about, Donna, before, we're not talking about processing this stuff. We're just talking about, race, in just the kind of everyday kind of racial dynamic that we're thinking, or what's going on inside of us. And we don't want to do that. And then people will tell you, you're taking up too much space. We don't want to hear about that. So if that's the level of where most people are. So the thing that I really do look at the people around that are, the perpetrators. I watch them and I watch them, drag in their children and all of them to come. And so what yes, we can all know what it does. We know what happened to the black man that got burned up and his family all around. They left, they ran, they left their farms, they left their homes, and they fled. But we know that. But what we don't talk about is the damage that has done to the white people. To the white people. Look at the damage that does to people. What does that do to humanity out the window, even to your soul as people? And so I worry about that, because we need to be whole as human beings. We need to be whole. So I'm worried. It's Black people have survived. White people, to me, we need to worry about white people and what it means to have that as legacy.
I just want to chime in here. I have two things. I hope I'm not taking us too far backwards, but I know we're kind of processing about processing, right? But so to contribute to that group process, I was raised in a very activist environment. My parents were revolutionaries, and I'm grateful for that, for the education that it gave me, for the compassion, for the love, for the value of justice that it gave me. But it was also a lot of being exposed to really horrible things really young. And so I noticed this role came up in me when we weren't going to go into it. That was like really strong, that you need to take it, and you need to deal with it, and you need to process this, and it's your job to be responsible and face this. So there's that role, which I think has good intentions, right? It's like, no, I want there to be less of this weight in the world. I want us to be able to sit with these hard truths and look at them so that it changes our hearts, I think is at the essence of it. Let us be changed by this. Let us transform by truth, by the power of seeing the truth of what we're capable of. Let it inspire us to make a different decision and to like live our whole lives differently. And then in the other group process, Diane, that you were suggesting about sort of picking up the role, it was interesting because when I was like, what would that actually be like to be there? What I felt was the opposite of what maybe some other folks were talking about, which is just this tremendous lightness. You know, like that's what all of that dehumanization, politically, scientifically, in the entertainment industry, socially, in all of the worldviews of the day, it was really making Black people so other, so not human, that you could do anything to them. And to me, that is that root of evil, is making something other, and then you feel good because you're superior, and you don't have to care about this other person at all because they're not human to you. It's the same way, you know, like you go to a luau. I'm going to say this thing, I don't know if it's triggering, but this is what came to me in the role, is like you go to a luau and they slaughter a pig and they roast it over a fire, and then everyone gets to have pulled pork sandwiches. It's just like, ooh, yay, we're here, we're partying together. We feel good about ourselves. And that, you know, you're not thinking about the pig.
That's excellent. That's perfect. Because if you think of all the things that I showed, and that was just a brief look, everything was to dehumanize. This is not a human being. This is not a human being. This is not a human being, until you can roast them and cut them up like a barbecue, and send and hold them as souvenirs, and take pictures and send them out to your family because you were at a barbecue. And that's how deep, that's what we've done. And so we have to all take, it has to be we. It's we. Because we breathe the same air, we drink the same water, we come from the same earth. It is we, and it's our collective responsibility to heal ourselves.
And I think you're really right that the country of the United States, especially, and also worldwide, has never fully acknowledged that and looked at that the same way Germany did with the Jews.
Right.
Now, there's never been that rehumanization process.
Right.
Has never happened fully.
Right.
And that's why, you know, the prison industrial complex, that's why so much of that stuff is still able to happen today.
Thank you, Mariah. I really appreciate, especially because your background, my background too. I mean, we get conditioned, we're conditioned so that we can do this, but you could see it and you could feel it and you could see the lightness. And that was just perfect of us so that we could process, and for Catherine, so that she can go ahead and process this and hang in there.
It doesn't help me process this. That experience doesn't help me process. That's just another piece of it. But it doesn't help me process. Like, I can tell you, like, intellectually, when I was watching the stuff, like, one of the things that's really clear is that racism fulfilled, in particular, like anti-Black racism fulfilled a belief that I can see was relieving. Like, there's something that it, like in what process work would call dreamland, it created this reality that reflected what was something that was unconscious. But for me, with like just this feeling of, okay, so I'll just stay with that thought for a moment. That was the one thing I was thinking while Mariah was talking about how it's relieving, because of course it's relieving, because you have, like, there's this thing inside that says whatever it says. And so you're creating this reality that matches it, that makes you feel better. But me feeling like this is too much, this is not right, that doesn't relieve it. That's just like another feeling. I'm like, how the fuck could you feel that way? Like, seriously, what is wrong? I don't think there's one experience. I don't think there's one experience. I think it's a really, it is, yeah, it's like, this is evil. This is like the depths of evil. There are so many experiences that are in this that are painful and maybe for some people joyous.
Yeah. There's so many dissociative. Sorry, Mariah, do you want to speak?
You go ahead.
Yeah, I'd rather you spoke in case you want to speak to that. So I'll just wait, Mariah. Go.
Okay. I was just going to say, I hear you, Kathy. I agree. There are so many experiences. And also that you're saying just being able to feel some of what might be inside that role doesn't touch your personal reaction. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I'm not big on the role thing, so I don't really jump into roles. So I gotta admit that that's one part that I've never totally. It's the more I've done in terms of training and group work, the less I'm into roles. I'm into, like, I like the idea of imagining we're there, and I can imagine I'm there, and I can imagine different perspectives. But some of it is always my perspective. Like, it's always me. It's always me. So that's what I'm going to say in terms of roles. So other people can speak up from roles more easily. They like that. It's a method that works for other people.
Yeah, but you're saying it hasn't worked as well for you.
It just doesn't resonate with me. Like, I can feel the feelings. I can imagine being there. I can imagine when Diane, you were talking, I can imagine being a little kid hiding behind your skirts, going, what the fuck? Trying to figure out how this makes sense in the world, and really being confused, just kind of confused.
But you can see that then you help to be conditioned by your loved ones around you.
Totally. I totally get, of course.
Yeah.
I think there is like a deep fucking wound that creates this. It's sick.
Yeah.
Like, it's deeply sick. And I think that's part of what I personally react to, because it brings up my own trauma, because it's fucking traumatic. How you can be there, how you could do that, how you can go through life and this is normal, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
So it's,
you know, it's interesting. The other role I was feeling into, my grandparents were Jewish refugees, actually, from Eastern Europe to the United States, which I think always sort of informs my experience of whiteness. But like what I think too is so many of the people who came to the United States were refugees, fleeing poverty, fleeing religious persecution, fleeing something. And I do think that's part of it, right? Like the sickness, the unprocessed trauma, the need to be superior, the desire to be superior. That was the other role I was feeling into, like how great that we're here now and that we're on top. Anyway, I know we're getting back to the roles, but I just wanted to chime in because I felt that role. It is, it's a sickness. So what you're saying, Donna, the unprocessed trauma is the sickness, or you, Diane, that's the sickness we're all carrying.
I think though that the only advantage for me, or call it advantage, but the experience that I had with doing role work has been that I get to, I am very uncomfortable with switching roles in some areas where it's just so far removed from my experience. But to, you know, some of the reason I have participated in that as a learning experience, and this is just for me, is that I get to hear the voice of what I've been conditioned with. And, you know, sometimes I hear myself say something and I'm like, fuck, I heard that all my life. You know, that comes from a particular mindset and a particular energy and a particular trauma belonging to those that projected it on me or that attempted to condition me with that. And, you know, in course of dissociation in me, so at a very young age, I completely and utterly numbed myself, or whatever happened to it, to those parts of myself, so that I could operate out of a system that was more of a consensus reality accepted behavior, and to completely disavow those aspects of myself. And I'm being asked to do it. And, you know, it's so painful. It's so painful, and there's a level of, you know, and to some degree when you talk about, I did to my children, you know, I probably did not do it with any kind of conscious awareness as your parents did, Mariah, but I think I parented with in some kind of emotional psychosis, and I, you know, tried to do all this social voice and, you know, social responsibility. But in some way, I actually perpetuated some disembodiment of my children, because I subjected them to things that they had to shut away parts of themselves to be able to. And I thought, oh, this is being socially responsible, but that's it. It took something from them. And I hear that in them today. And so in doing all of this and including the work that I do in my job, it's like, I think what I keep hearing is we, us. There needs to be a we and an us, because I cannot bring myself forward from what takes my breath away still in trauma. And I can't find words for it. I can find feelings, I can find speechlessness, and I need to have more around me, because I feel quite impotent in my actions, not in my feeling sense, but you know, there's got to be a we with this, and I don't know how to generate a we. Even when I've got process workers in my study group who won't do it. Yeah.
Can you say more about the we? Like who is who is the we? What is the we?
Well, the collective we, the we of us who come together, and those who are, who can find the words for the feelings, those who can process, with some wisdom and care, all that we need to do. I mean, Diane's been talking about, we've all been talking about the horror, I can't, it's like I work in a place where there's a lot of very generationally damaged addicts, trauma, grandma's dealing drugs, she's Aboriginal, she's dealing drugs to her grandchildren, and I want to have something to say about this, but I don't have enough of other like-minded people to come around and say, I had an Aboriginal grandmother come into me and she wanted me to write her a letter for court. And I said, what is it for? Oh, for selling drugs. I said, are you a drug addict? No. Why are you selling drugs? Make a little bit of money. Who are you selling drugs to? And I got angry with her. And I said, I've got an Aboriginal daughter and you're selling drugs to Aboriginals and you're Aboriginal and you're a grandmother, and I'm not talking to you as an Aboriginal, I'm talking to you as a grandmother who is selling drugs to innocent people so that you can make a bit of money because you won't go out and get a job. It's unacceptable. People attacked me when I took that to supervision for talking to an Aboriginal like that. And I said I was talking to a grandmother selling drugs to her grandchildren. It's unacceptable. I won't tolerate it, and I won't work with people that are going to do it. I'm not going to perpetuate this. There is also, how can I separate that from the fact that there is an Aboriginal woman in front of me? And I got caught, and I had no one else. There was no we to take that to. I just got told that what I was doing was wrong. Like, well, I'm on my own here. Where's my we? So the we, us, what we have here, I guess. Sorry, long answer, Catherine.
This is the we of all the different parts. This process. Oh, man.
So where do we go from here? What do we do? I'm always really direct. So I'll go direct. And I also, Donna, Mariah, Kat, I'm a lot by myself too, because you have to follow your own heart on this, to me, and because there's no path. It's not like let's find the path. No, there's no path. We have to just move and then see and then move and then see where you go from there. Where do you go from there? What do you do? And it's a matter to me of a decision. It's just deciding, and then there's a deciding and there's a believing. I believe. I trust. Whatever I'm following, and I'm kind of following. I trust that, and I trust that we will find a way to make change. I believe we will change, because we cannot continue the way we are. We can't, because we're at the end. And as far as race is concerned, the thing that kind of the motivation that I have that's sort of making me move more, kind of two things. As I move, I also watch to make sure that the support, and I don't mean necessarily, other people, which I do get some of that, but the support that I need that says, okay, now you can go forward. In other words, if all the doors close and if all of your support system drops out from under you, then you know that you're heading in the wrong direction, right? So as long as you're moving and things are coming together. Things are coming together. And believe. I believe that we are in the process of change, transformation from this feeling of ourselves as weak humans to an awareness of ourselves as powerful spirit. I believe that. So because I believe that, I then have to be that. I just have to be that. And I don't think that we have to get to a place where everybody, there's a tipping point. And as I'm watching the tipping point on race, it's tipping in the wrong direction. It's tipping in the wrong direction. So now as I look out in the world or just at the white people that I know, most of them don't want to talk about race either, or do anything, or have that come up at all. And so I know that I worry about that because there's so much race stuff going on that they're going to be pulled in. You're going to be pulled to one side or the other. And if you're just going the easiest route, easy, it's going to be easier to go to the white supremacy that's making a stand. It's going to be, because if you are around and your family and all of your people are doing these code languages and being anti-Black in some ways, then as it's coming up higher and higher, and then you're going to be pulled in. And if there's nobody for you to go to go a different direction, if there's nothing, like it's here and we're four. This is a pivotal, powerful four, because we're a foundation, four cornerstones. So, because if we provide something, we say we're direct, we're looking at it directly, we're going to process it. It's not comfortable, but we're doing it, and you can join us, and this is what you can do. Then at least that might be something that they can do, other than, because white supremacy is saying, look at how much better off you are as white people. Don't let anybody take that away from you, because yes, you have all the best of everything and all the benefit, and yes, take that. That's your right. The Bible says that, or whatever says that. And so I say that no. I say that we are in the process of transformation, and we're making a stand and we're making a choice. And I believe that the pandemic is a wake-up call. Everything is a wake-up call. So, I mean, because white supremacy, the way it's going, anti-democratic, into fascism, it's a movement into fascism. And people are joining that because they'd rather move into fascism and have somebody tell them everything to do rather than fight the battle, the white supremacy. It's like, I know this. I've been doing this my whole life. I can live with this. I can do this. This is comfortable. I can manage this. I can't do this other thing. It's too hard. So
I just want to be clear, the other thing is fighting white supremacy and fascism.
Well, you see what I'm talking, look at what we're doing. We're not even fighting it. We're just bringing it up. We're looking it in the face, and we're looking at what it really is. Mm-hmm. And we're processing it. And I'm big on roles. I could be, it's just that there wasn't any role in the moment, for the roles, as I looked at the roles were, the young white people, the grandmothers, the mothers, and the children. And those were all, making a right out of wrong. That's what that was about. But I love roles because I can feel the energy and just be that. And I think there's salvation in that, because I think we can explode it and we can show it, and we can say, okay, you can choose this white supremacy, but this is what this is. This is an intentional effort at dehumanization that has been successful. And so if this, you then join that if you can live with that. But that's not heading us in a good direction.
I don't think any of us here could live with that, or we wouldn't be here.
And the good thing about what this program that we four did as the foundation stones of this is it is recorded. That's why I like recordings. So that even if it's painful, it's recorded. And so people who didn't come to this can look at it and they can decide, they can say, okay, this is horrible. This is horrible. But I think, but I want to commit. I want to be in that crowd that's needed to burn, to process. I want to do that. It's uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it because I don't want to be the ones that think of it as going to a barbecue. That was really good. I can just thank you, Mariah, for that. That was perfect. How you can feel the lightness. You're at a luau, you roast a pig, you all cut it up. It's the same. Because that's what it's been. It's dehumanized all the way down to an animal that you need to burn them up, and then you can cut them up and make them into memorabilia.
I think that there is a amongst white mainstream is that there is an acceptable level of racism, and I think that and then there's guilt and shame for having racism, and I think that I want all people of color should have homes and yada yada yada. But I have areas where I am inflexible around, having a person of color in my family, or whatever it is, whatever their personal limitations are. But comparatively, as a point of reference, am I going to go to, this human sacrifice and all this horrible, cruel, evil stuff? No, I would never do that. But I have an acceptable amount of racism, and so it's I think it's a way to continue to stay the same, and also I think too some of with my study group is that there is a lot of shame around having I'm a process worker, or I'm quite developed, or I work with Aboriginal people, or I work in this field, therefore I can't have these kind of feelings, and I'm not going to air them because they're quite private, and I don't want you to have judgment about me, and I don't want to get pinned to that way of believing, and that, or being pinned to a role. But there's so many outs. And it's, anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I think it was either Kathy Barnett or Jennifer Kleske who introduced me to this idea. We're all, I think a lot of folks are really working on their internalized oppression, but that our more low rank experience, to use a process work term, but that we also have an internalized dominance, that we're less aware of the ways in which we are unconsciously enacting our high rank. And that I think you're right, Donna, like the part of that acceptable level of racism is maybe like almost an addiction to the feeling, an unconscious addiction to the feeling of superiority, or a dependence on that need of like lightness and ease that, we might get for being white without fully investigating where that comes from or how that's been packaged to us on the oppression of Black people and people of color. And that's what I was thinking too. It's like, what would it take to really get at that internalized superiority feeling, and also really get at the places where we're still dehumanizing Black people, and what that work would really look like.
Sometimes I get really caught up because I think, you know, it's like those graphic photographs that we saw, that photograph that we saw. It's like, fuck, enough. I've got more trauma than I need that I can fucking cope with at the moment. And so there's a part of me that wants to go, and I guess this is a role also. And, you know, and I'll just acknowledge that before saying anything, that, you know, there's a part that comes from being overwhelmed with trauma to say, listen, don't show me the photos. Don't give me any of the real graphic stuff. Just let's deal with how you're feeling and how we're going to fix it. It's almost like not quite a spiritual bypass, but there's this kind of like, this is too much for me to hold, even though you've been holding it all your life. And I feel guilty that I can't, you know, I just don't have room inside of me for it. Yes, okay, let's get proactive. Let's do something, whatever that's going to look like. But don't tell me all your story of trauma, because, you know, I really can't hold that right now. So you hold on to it for, you know, a number of generations more. And, you know, while, you know, I kind of process my own inability to be able to hear your full story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. And that's where we are, I think. I think we are, it's like climate change, pandemic, fires everywhere. It's going to take a lot more before we, you see, it's like somebody told me a lot. I have to feel it. I have to feel it. I don't feel that, and I don't want to feel that. And if it's not happening to me and my small family here, then that's too bad. I'm not, and I don't want anything to change either. I don't want to give up nothing. I want to give up anything. I want to keep the status quo. And so to me, because I told you, I believe, and so I believe that we are called on to change, and that if we say, I will not change if I don't feel the pain, then that is what we're calling for ourselves. Because the reason I think, I mean, there are just a lot of reasons, but I think I don't think that we're just these small little human beings. I think we are. We're here, we're creators. We're here to create, and we're here, and our consciousness is elevating. We're becoming more aware of that. And we're, but we're all living here on this planet. And what Arnie said at the last meeting was that we've got 100 years, and humankind will be extinct, and not just humankind, life on Earth. So, and that's because of it's not just happens. It's because of this is the path we're on. This is the life we've chosen. So what we say to the universe is, I must feel pain. Because I am too comfortable, my life, whatever it is, does not want to see one more thing I'm already receiving enough pain, and I'm not going to, I don't care. And so I'm just going to keep doing what I do. But I think that we're asking for more. I mean, the pandemic came out of nowhere. Climate change is we're pretending like that's not happening. So, I mean that's the only answer I can give. That this is illuminating. I love it though, because we're being so honest. Because to me, that's the answer is we have to. It's not just that we have to decide what we're going to do. We can't just decide because we don't know what happened. We don't know our history because we don't want to look at it. And so we must see it, and we've got to process it. That's why I like that animated part that said we're stuck in this. Nothing's going to work. Nothing's going to work because we have not processed our history. And what does it mean to process our history? We've got these tools. We can do these roles, and we can jump into roles, and we can process that. We can see it. That's what we can do. And I think that's what's required. Thank you for coming. This has been great. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Stop sharing.